Commander Jake stood at the edge of the Galactic Council chamber, watching the alien delegates argue among themselves. The massive circular room floated in space, its transparent walls showing the stars beyond. Jake had served as humanity's liaison officer here for 3 years, and he knew how these meetings always ended. The council talked, debated, and did nothing. Today was different, though. Today, someone actually needed help. The distress signal played again on the main display. A voice, trembling with fear, begged for assistance. The peaceful colony on Sanctuary 7 was under attack. The Dominion had sent their warships, and the small settlement had no way to defend itself. Ambassador Lisa sat in the human observer seat, her face carefully neutral. She caught Jake's eye and gave a slight nod. They both knew what was coming. Council leader raised one of his 4 arms, silencing the chamber. The leader's compound eyes glittered in the starlight. The council has heard the request. We must now vote on intervention. A delegate from the Empire spoke first. Sanctuary 7 is far from our borders. The cost of sending a fleet would be significant. They are dangerous, another council member added. We risk war if we interfere in their expansion. Jake clenched his fists. They had been humanity's first true friends in the galaxy. 50 years ago, when Earth had made contact with the stars, the Galactic Council had tried to claim human worlds as resource colonies. Only they had spoken against it. Only they had offered shelter to human refugees fleeing Council aggression. Now they needed help, and these politicians were counting the cost. Mandibles clicked together. The human delegation has requested permission to speak. We grant it, though we wonder what the species could possibly offer. Lisa stood, her voice steady. They helped humanity when no one else would. We are prepared to send our forces to defend them. The chamber erupted in what Jake had learned to recognize as alien laughter. It sounded like grinding metal, hissing gas, and clicking stones all at once. Your forces? His voice dripped with amusement. Humanity has 3 registered military vessels in the entire galaxy, 3 ships against an attack fleet of 200. This is not courage, Ambassador. This is suicide. Perhaps, Lisa said calmly, but it is the right thing to do. Waved a dismissive arm. The Council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm, but we cannot allow you to waste lives on a pointless gesture. The vote is called, all in favor of intervention. Not a single delegate raised their hand, or appendage or tentacle. The motion fails, announced. The Council will send a formal message of sympathy to the colony. This session is adjourned. Jake watched the delegates file out, already discussing trade agreements and border disputes. That didn't matter to them. Small colonies on distant worlds were expendable. Lisa walked over to him, her jaw tight with anger. Record everything, she whispered. Every word, every vote. Already done, Jake replied quietly. He tapped the small device in his ear. Every second of the Council's cowardice was saved. They left the chamber and walked through the station's corridors. Other species passed them by, some curious about the humans, most ignoring them entirely. Humanity was new here, weak by galactic standards. 3 ships, that's all anyone knew about. Captain Blake met them at the docking bay, where the UHNS Horizon waited. The diplomatic escort vessel looked small compared to the massive alien warships docked nearby. How bad? Asked. They voted no, Lisa said. They are on their own. His expression hardened. He had been part of the human delegation that they had sheltered decades ago. His parents had died on a council prison world. They had saved him when he was just a child. What do we do? He asked. Jake pulled out a secure communication device, one that didn't connect to the council's networks. I'm sending a message home, just one word. Will they understand? Lisa asked. They'll understand. Jake typed quickly, encrypting the message with codes that changed every hour. The single word appeared on the screen, Sanctuary. He hit send. The message burst across space, traveling through quantum relays that the Council didn't even know existed. In seconds, it would reach Earth. In minutes, it would reach every human colony, every hidden base, every secret facility that humanity had built over the past 50 years. We should leave, said, if they find out we sent that. They won't, Jake assured him. The Council thinks we're harmless. They think 3 ships is all we have. Lisa smiled grimly. They have no idea what's coming. The 3 of them boarded the Horizon. As the ship undocked and began its journey back to human space, Jake looked at the Council station growing smaller in the and his colleagues thought they had seen the last of this incident. They thought the wood fall, and humanity would accept it. They were wrong. Jake had been at the council for 3 years, playing the role of the humble newcomer. He had listened to their speeches about galactic law and proper procedure. He had nodded and smiled while they dismissed human concerns. The whole time, he had been watching and learning. The council had made one critical mistake. They assumed humanity was weak because they appeared weak. They never asked why a species that had unified an entire solar system, that had built colonies on hostile worlds, that had survived nuclear wars and climate disasters, would only have 3 military vessels. They never wondered what else humanity might be hiding. Jake's secure device buzzed. A reply had come through faster than should have been possible. It was from Admiral Grant, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Fleet. The message was short. Received, fleet mobilizing, estimated arrival 72 hours. 72 hours. They just needed to hold on for 72 hours. Saw Jake's expression. Good news. The best, Jake said. Help is on the way, real help. Lisa leaned back in her chair. The council is going to regret this day. They already do, Jake said. They just don't know it yet. The horizon jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the council station behind. Ahead of them, somewhere in the darkness between stars, the largest military fleet in galactic history was waking up. Thousands of ships that had waited in silence for 50 years were preparing to move. Admiral Grant stood in the command center, buried 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. The chamber was massive, carved from solid rock and lined with displays showing every human military installation in the solar system. For 50 years, she had waited for this moment. For 50 years, she had prepared. The single word flashed on her main screen, Sanctuary. All stations, this is Grant, she spoke into the fleet-wide channel. Protocol Sanctuary is now active. Begin mobilization immediately. Across the solar system, humanity's true military might begin to wake. On Mars, Colonel Ben Harper watched as the red sand of Olympus Mons split open. Massive hangar doors, hidden for decades beneath the planet's largest volcano, revealed themselves. Inside, rows of warships sat ready. Harper had commanded the Mars Defense Force for 15 years, always training, always drilling, never knowing when the call would come. Now it had. All crews to stations, he ordered. We launch in 30 minutes. The ships of the Mars fleet powered up. These weren't the small patrol vessels the Galactic Council knew about. These were battle cruisers, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. Harper had helped design them himself, using technology humanity had developed in secret. Beneath Europa's ice, Captain Torres felt her ship vibrate as the engines came online. The UHNS Valiant had never seen open space. It had been built in the hidden shipyards beneath Jupiter's frozen moon, assembled piece by piece over 20 years. Torres and her crew had trained in simulators, preparing for a war that might never come. But it had come, the needed help. Navigation, plot a course to Sanctuary 7, Torres ordered. Maximum quantum speed. Her navigation officer looked up, surprised. Captain, that's a Council Classification 7 route. If we use quantum drive, they'll detect us. They're going to detect us anyway, Torres said with a slight smile. In about 70 hours, the entire galaxy is going to know what we've been hiding. Set the course. In the asteroid belt, hundreds of rocks that had orbited the sun for millions of years suddenly weren't rocks anymore. Their surfaces split open, revealing the warships hidden inside. These were the hunter-killers, fast attack ships designed for one purpose, eliminating enemy vessels before they could react. On Earth, beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Grant watched the status reports flow in. The fleet markers on her display changed from red to green as each ship reported ready. Mars Fleet, 32 capital ships green. Europa Fleet, 18 heavy cruisers green. Asteroid Defense Grid, 200 attack ships green. The numbers kept climbing. Dr. Alex entered the command center, carrying a data pad. The historian had spent 40 years documenting humanity's secret military development. He was old now, gray-haired and walking with a cane, but his mind was still sharp. "Admiral, I thought you should see this," he said, handing her the pad. It was a recording from 50 years ago. A young scientist named Myra spoke to a group of human refugees. She promised them safety, promised that her people would protect them from the Council's aggression. In the recording, human children sat beside younglings, sharing food and drawing pictures together. "Myra is still alive," Alex said quietly. "She's the colony elder on Sanctuary 7. Those children in the recording, some of them are commanding ships in this fleet." Grant felt something tighten in her chest. She had been one of those children. She remembered Myra's kindness, remembered feeling safe for the first time after her home world had been invaded by Council forces. "Then we'd better make sure we get there in time," Grant said. The fleet count reached 1,000 ships, then 2,000, then 3,000. Humanity had learned from the Council's attempt to conquer Earth. They had learned that showing weakness was sometimes the best defense. So they had registered only 3 ships with the Galactic Council, small diplomatic vessels that couldn't threaten anyone. Meanwhile, in secret, they had built an armada. Every asteroid mining operation had doubled as a shipyard. Every deep space research station had hidden weapons development. Every colony ship traveling to distant worlds had carried military equipment in hidden compartments. For 5 decades, humanity had prepared for the day when they would need to fight. That day had arrived. "Admiral, we have a transmission from Captain Blake on the horizon," a communications officer reported. "He says they have begun their final assault on the colony. Estimates the shields will fail in 48 hours. Grant checked the fleet status. 4,000 ships were ready. Another 1,000 would be combat-ready within hours. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," she ordered. "We depart in 6 hours. Formation pattern Delta 7. The first wave will drop out of quantum space in high orbit. The second wave will secure the outer system. Third wave will stand by for ground support if needed." "Yes, Admiral." Grant pulled up a tactical display of Sanctuary 7. They had 200 ships surrounding the planet. Intelligence reports said they were using standard siege tactics, slowly wearing down the colony's defenses before landing ground troops. 200 ships against 5,000. They wouldn't know what hit them. Colonel Harper's voice came through on a private channel. "Are you sure about this? Once we reveal the fleet, there's no going back. The Council will know we've been lying to them for 50 years. "I'm sure, Ben," Grant replied. "The Council abandoned they made their choice, now we make ours." "Just wanted to hear you say it," Harper said. "Mars fleet is ready to jump on your command." All across the solar system, ship captains gave similar reports. The fleet was ready. 5,000 warships, each one equipped with technology the Galactic Council had never seen. Quantum drives that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. Plasma shields that could withstand direct hits from fusion weapons. Rail guns that fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. And more importantly, crews that had trained for this moment their entire lives. Grant thought about the Council's reaction when they detected the fleet, and his politicians had dismissed humanity as harmless. They had no idea that humans were predators by nature, that Earth was a death world where everything evolved to survive. Humans had conquered their own planet through intelligence, cooperation, and an unwillingness to give up. Those same traits had built this fleet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her second-in-command announced. Grant took a deep breath. This was it. 50 years of secrecy, 50 years of preparation, all leading to this moment. "Fleet-wide channel, please." "Channel open, Admiral." Grant's voice reached every ship, every crew member, every human who had worked toward this day. "This is Admiral Grant to all fleet personnel. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council tried to conquer humanity. They failed because one species had the courage to stand with us. They offered shelter when we had nowhere to go. They offered friendship when the galaxy wanted to enslave us. Today, they need our help. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity truly is. We are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. But we will not abandon our friends. All ships prepare for quantum jump. Destination, Sanctuary 7, let's bring our people home." The response was immediate. 5,000 ships acknowledged the order. Grant looked at the countdown timer. In 6 hours, the fleet would jump. In 72 hours, they would reach Sanctuary 7. They were about to learn a hard lesson. So was the Galactic Council. Never underestimate humanity. Never mistake patience for weakness. And never, ever threaten Elder Myra. Watch the shield display flicker and fade. The protective barrier around the colony had held for 3 days, but it was failing now. Another hour, maybe 2, and the would break through. She stood in the colony's command center, a simple building that had once coordinated farming schedules and water distribution. Now it tracked incoming weapons fire and calculated how much time they had left. The answer was always the same: not enough. "Elder, the children are in the underground shelters," one of her aides reported. The young's fur was standing on end, a sign of fear that Myra's species couldn't hide. "Good," Myra said, trying to sound calm. "Make sure they have enough food and water for a week." She didn't mention that in a week it wouldn't matter. They didn't take prisoners. They took resources. And the colony sat on one of the richest mineral deposits in the sector. A small hand tugged at Myra's robe. She looked down to see her granddaughter, Sira, who should have been in the shelters with the other children. "Grandmother, will the humans come?" Sira asked. "Like we helped them before." Myra's heart broke. She remembered those human refugees 50 years ago, scared and desperate. She remembered promising them safety. Now her own people needed help, and there was no one to promise them anything. "I don't know, little one," Myra said honestly. "The humans are far away." "But they remember, don't they?" Sira insisted. "You said humans never forget their friends." Before Myra could answer, the building shook. Another impact. They were getting closer. Above the planet, Commander Chris of the Dominion watched the colony shields flicker on his display. His fleet of 200 warships surrounded Sanctuary, 7 like predators circling wounded prey. "The shields will fail within the hour," his tactical officer reported. Nodded. This had been easier than expected. They had no military, no defenses worth mentioning. They had sent a distress call to the Galactic Council, but knew how that would end. The Council never intervened in conflicts this far from their core worlds. "Prepare landing troops," he ordered. "Once the shields fall, I want ground forces securing the mining facilities immediately." "Sir, we're detecting a small energy spike in the outer system," a sensor technician called out. "Could be a malfunction." Barely paid attention. Probably just space debris or a comet. Nothing in this system posed any threat to his fleet. "Keep monitoring it," he said dismissively. "Focus on the colony." Back on the surface, Myra held Sira close as another explosion rocked the command center. The shield was at 5%. Any moment now, it would collapse completely. "I should get you to the shelter," Myra said. "No," Sira said stubbornly. "I want to see when the humans arrive." "Sira, they're not coming. The Council refused to help." "Then the humans will come without the Council," Sira said with the absolute certainty of childhood. "You taught me that humans protect their friends. We're their friends." Myra wished she had her granddaughter's faith. She had seen the galaxy's cruelty, had watched powerful species ignore suffering because it didn't benefit them. Why would the humans be different? On the flagship, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. "Sir, multiple quantum signatures detected," the sensor officer shouted. "Right on top of us. Hundreds of ships, no, thousands." The space around Sanctuary 7 exploded with light. Ships materialized from quantum space, appearing so close to the fleet that their proximity alarms screamed warnings. But these weren't Galactic Council vessels. These were human warships, and there were thousands of them. Stared at his display in disbelief. The sensors showed over 5,000 ships arranged in perfect military formation. Each one bristled with weapons. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything in his fleet. "This is impossible," whispered. "Humanity only has 3 ships, 3. His communication officer's hands shook as she spoke. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. It's in language." "Put it through." A human woman's voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect without a translator. "This is Admiral Grant of the United Human Defense Fleet. You are in violation of territorial space. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw, or you will be destroyed." Found his voice. "This is Commander Chris of the Dominion. You're bluffing. Humanity is weak. Everyone knows this." There was a pause, then Admiral Grant spoke again, and this time her voice was cold. "You have 20 seconds. Open fire on the nearest human ship," ordered. "Show them what happens when they threaten the—" 3 of his warships fired their main weapons at a human cruiser. The plasma bolts should have torn through shields and hull. Instead, they splashed harmlessly against a barrier that glowed blue and absorbed the energy like it was nothing. Then the human ships fired back. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human rail guns launched projectiles that moved faster than the sensors could track. They punched through shields and armor like they weren't there. 3 ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by impacts that released more energy than fusion bombs. Evasive maneuvers screamed, "All ships scatter." But there was nowhere to scatter to. Human ships surrounded them on all sides. Small fighter craft poured from carrier vessels, moving with precision and speed that everything knew about space combat. In the colony command center, Myra's communications console suddenly came alive. A human voice spoke in language. "Elder Myra, this is Captain Blake of the UHNS Horizon. We've arrived with the fleet. You're safe now." Myra couldn't speak. She looked at the display showing the space battle above. The fleet was being systematically dismantled by human forces. Ship after ship went dark as human weapons disabled their systems. Sierra tugged her grandmother's robe again. "I told you they would come." "You did," Myra said, tears running down her face. "You did." Above the planet, the battle was already ending. Half of fleet was disabled or destroyed. The other half was trying desperately to escape, but human ships blocked every route. "Sir, they're not just fighting us," tactical officer said in horror. "They're hunting us. Every move we make, they predicted it. Every formation we try, they counter it instantly." Understood then, the humans had been studying them. While the galaxy thought humanity was weak, the humans had been watching and learning. They knew tactics better than the did. "All ships surrender," ordered. "Power down weapons, maybe they'll show mercy." The communication channel opened again. Admiral Grant's voice was calm. "You will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. You will be taken into custody and tried for war crimes against the people. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have 60 seconds to comply." Looked at his bridge crew, young warriors who had thought this would be an easy conquest. Now they were surrounded by a fleet that could destroy them with ease. "Do as she says," ordered quietly. "Power down everything." One by one, the ships went dark. Human boarding parties moved in, securing each vessel with military efficiency. On the surface, Myra received another transmission. This time, she saw a face on the screen, a human woman, older now but still familiar. "Elder Myra, this is Admiral Grant. I don't know if you remember me. 50 years ago, you gave shelter to a scared human child. You taught her that kindness matters, that protecting others is more important than protecting yourself. I never forgot that lesson." Myra's eyes widened. "Little, the girl who liked to draw pictures with my daughter." "The same," Grant said with a smile. "Thank you for taking care of us. We're here to return the favor. Human medical teams and engineers are on their way to the surface. We'll help rebuild anything the damaged." Sierra was bouncing with excitement. I told you humans remember." Myra laughed through her tears. "You did, little one, you absolutely did." Above Sanctuary 7, 5,000 human warships held position. Not a single one had been damaged. Lieutenant Kate guided her fighter through the debris field that had once been the attack formation. Her squadron had been assigned cleanup duty, making sure no vessels tried to slip away in the chaos. So far, none had tried. The remaining ships sat dead in space, their crews waiting for human boarding parties. Kate was Jake's younger sister. While her brother had played diplomat at the Galactic Council, she had been training as a fighter pilot in the hidden bases of the asteroid belt. 15 years of simulation combat, preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now it had come, and it was over in less than an hour. "Shadow 7, this is Shadow Lead," her squadron commander's voice came through her helmet. "Sweep pattern complete. No hostiles attempting escape. RTB for refuel." Return to base. Kate glanced at her fuel gauge. She had barely used 10%. The fight had been that quick. On the surface of Sanctuary 7, Captain Blake walked through the colony with a medical team. The damage wasn't as bad as he had feared. They had focused their assault on the shields rather than the colony itself. They had wanted the facilities intact for mining operations. Children peeked out from shelter entrances, their large eyes watching the humans with curiosity and hope. Remembered being their age, hiding in similar shelters while council ships bombarded his home world. They had saved him then. Today, he had returned that favor. Elder Myra met him at the central plaza. The elderly moved slowly, but her mind was sharp. She looked at with recognition dawning in her eyes. "You were one of the children," she said. "I remember your face. You drew pictures of stars." Nodded. I still do, sometimes. Elder Myra, our engineering teams are ready to repair your shield generators and any other damaged systems. Medical personnel are standing by to help anyone who was injured. Why? Myra asked quietly. The Galactic Council abandoned us. They said we were too far, too insignificant to save. Why would humanity risk war for us? Smiled, because you taught us that distance and significance don't matter. Kindness matters, doing the right thing matters. You saved us when you didn't have to. We're just returning the gesture. Sira ran up to them, no longer hiding in the shelters. Are the scary ships gone? They're gone, assured her, and they won't be coming back. On the flagship, now a prisoner ship, Commander Chris sat in his command chair under human guard. 2 armed soldiers stood at the bridge entrance, their weapons lowered but ready. They hadn't said much, just ordered the crew to remain at their stations. Admiral Grant appeared on his main. The human admiral looked calm, almost relaxed. That bothered more than anger would have. Commander, you and your crew will be transferred to a human detention facility, Grant said. You'll be held there until a formal trial can be arranged. On what charges? Demanded. The colony sits on unclaimed territory. The Dominion has every right to expand into unclaimed space. They have occupied Sanctuary 7 for 70 years, Grant replied. That makes it their territory. You attacked a civilian population without provocation. In human law, that's called a war crime. You'll face trial for that. Laughed bitterly. Human law, the Galactic Council makes the laws, not you. They'll have something to say about this. I'm sure they will, Grant said. I look forward to hearing it. In the meantime, you and your crews will be treated according to the standards of the Geneva Convention. You'll be given food, medical care, and fair treatment. That's more than you were planning to give the. The screen went dark, sat in silence, trying to understand what had happened. A week ago, the Dominion had been a feared military power. Now they had lost an entire fleet to a species that was supposed to be harmless. How had humanity hidden this much strength? How had the Galactic Council missed it? In the human fleet's command ship, the UHNS Retribution, Admiral Grant reviewed the casualty reports. 0 human losses, minimal damage to 3 ships from debris impacts, 147 vessels captured or disabled, 53 ships destroyed when their commanders refused to surrender. It had been a perfect military operation, overwhelming force applied with precision. They never had a chance. Colonel Ben Harper's face appeared on her communication screen. We're getting quantum transmissions from every major power in the galaxy. They all want to know where this fleet came from. Let them wonder, Grant said. We'll address the galaxy once we've secured this system. How are the Mars fleet repairs going? Minor wear on the quantum drives from the long jump, Harper reported. Nothing serious. We'll be combat-ready again in 12 hours. Good, keep half the fleet on alert. I don't think anyone else will try attacking but I want to be ready if they do. Captain Torres appeared on a second screen. Admiral, our sensor teams have detected Council observation ships at the edge of the system. They're not approaching, just watching. Let them watch, Grant said. They need to see what humanity is capable of. On the Galactic Council observation ship, 3 delegates from different species watched the human fleet with growing alarm. They had arrived expecting to document the colony's fall. Instead, they were witnessing the revelation of humanity's true military power. 5,000 ships, one delegate whispered. How did they build 5,000 ships without us knowing? They must have been constructing them in secret for decades, another replied. But why? What is their goal? The third delegate, an older and wiser being, understood. Survival. We tried to conquer them 50 years ago. They learned they couldn't trust the Council to protect them, so they built their own protection. What do we tell the Council? The truth, humanity is not what we thought. They are not weak newcomers. They are a major military power, possibly the strongest in the galaxy. Back on Sanctuary 7, the first human transport ships were landing with supplies and equipment. Engineers worked alongside technicians to repair the damaged shield generators. Medical teams treated minor injuries and trauma. Children from both species played together in the plaza while their parents worked. Elder Myra stood with Admiral Grant, watching the activity. The human admiral had come down from orbit to see the colony herself. I remember when you were small enough to ride on my shoulders, Myra said. Now you command fleets that shake the galaxy. Grant smiled. I remember too. You used to tell me stories about the crystal forests and singing rivers. You made a scared child feel safe. And now you make an old woman feel safe, Myra said. The galaxy will fear you after this. Maybe, Grant admitted. But fear isn't what we want. We want respect. We want the galaxy to know that humanity protects its friends and punishes those who harm the innocent. The Council will not take this well. I know. Commander is heading back there now with evidence of the Council's refusal to help. We're going to have a very public conversation about their failure. Myra looked worried. You would challenge the Council directly. We already have, Grant said. By coming here by revealing our fleet, we've challenged everything the Council stands for. Their power comes from other species being weak. We just proved we're not weak. Young Sira ran up to them, holding a drawing. It showed human ships protecting buildings under a bright sun. For you, Sira said, handing it to Grant, so you remember us. Grant took the picture carefully. I'll put this on my desk, Sira, and I'll never forget what they did for humanity. That's a promise. Kate's fighter squadron flew patrol around the planet, their formation perfect. Below them, human and worked together to rebuild. Above them, 5,000 warships held position, a statement to the galaxy. Humanity had been patient. They had appeared weak while growing strong. They had waited for the right moment to reveal themselves. That moment had been worth the wait. They were defeated. They were saved. And the Galactic Council was about to learn that the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council chamber had never been this full. Every species with a vote had sent representatives. Even species that rarely attended council sessions had arrived to witness what everyone was calling the human revelation. Commander Jake stood at the center of the chamber, no longer in the humble position of a liaison officer. Today, he stood as humanity's voice, backed by 5,000 warships that waited in nearby space. Ambassador Lisa sat in the human delegation seat, but it was different now. The seat had been moved from the observer section to the main circle, equal with all other council members. No one had dared object. Council leader looked older than he had a week ago. His compound eyes were dim, and his mandibles clicked nervously. He called the session to order with far less confidence than usual. The Council recognizes the human delegation, said. Commander, you requested this emergency session. The floor is yours. Jake stepped forward. Behind him, a massive display activated, showing the recording of the last council session, the one where this distress call had been ignored. 7 days ago, the colony on Sanctuary 7 called for help, Jake began. They were under attack by the Dominion, 200 warships against a peaceful settlement. They asked the Council for protection. The Council voted no. The recording played. Delegates watched themselves dismiss this plea. They heard laugh at humanity's offer to help. The Council decided they were too far away, too insignificant to save, Jake continued. But they weren't too far for humanity. They weren't insignificant to us. Because 50 years ago, when the Council tried to colonize Earth and claim our worlds as resource territories, they were the only species that stood with us. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates remembered that incident differently. The official record said humanity had peacefully joined the galactic community. The Council's history files have been edited, Jake said, anticipating the objection. But we kept our own records. We have testimony from survivors. We have evidence of Council ships firing on civilian populations. We have proof that they offered shelter to human refugees while the Council declared us a primitive species with no rights. The display changed, showing images from 50 years ago. Council warships in Earth orbit. Human cities burning, ships evacuating refugees. A delegate from the Empire stood. This is propaganda. The Council would never. The Council did, Jake interrupted. And when they needed help last week, the Council did it again. You abandoned them, so humanity intervened. With an illegal military fleet, said, trying to regain control. You deceived the Council. You claimed to have only 3 military vessels. You lied. Jake smiled. We told the truth. We registered 3 military vessels with the Council. Those 3 ships were all we chose to share with you. The rest of our fleet is none of your business. You violated galactic law. Which law? Jake challenged. Show me the law that says a species can't build ships for its own defense. Show me the law that says we must report our military strength to the Council. You won't find it because it doesn't exist. The only deception here was the Council's assumption that we were weak. Admiral Grant entered the chamber. The human admiral walked with the confidence of someone who commanded the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. She took position beside Jake. The Council made many assumptions about humanity, Grant said. You assumed we were primitive. You assumed we would accept your authority. You assumed we would forget your attempt to conquer us. Every assumption was wrong. What do you want? Asked tiredly. Revenge, war. Neither, Grant said. We want reform. The Council has become corrupt. You protect the powerful and abandon the weak. You make laws that benefit yourselves and ignore the suffering of others. That ends now. You cannot dictate terms to the Council, a delegate protested. Yes, we can, Grant said simply. Because we have 5,000 warships and you have nothing that can stop them. But we don't want to rule through fear. We want to build something better. The chamber doors opened. Elder Myra entered, walking slowly with young Sira beside her. The elder had traveled from Sanctuary 7 to testify. Behind them came representatives from a dozen other species, small civilizations that the Council had ignored or exploited. Myra stepped forward to speak. 50 years ago, I helped human refugees because it was the right thing to do. I didn't ask what benefit it would bring I didn't calculate the political cost. I just helped people who needed help. Last week, my colony faced destruction. The Council voted to let us die. Humanity voted to save us. Sira held up a drawing, the same one she had given to Admiral Grant. The humans came because there are friends. Friends help each other. The simple statement from a child silenced the chamber. Jake spoke again. Humanity is proposing a new organization, the Galactic Alliance. It will include any species that agrees to 3 simple rules. First, protect civilian populations from military aggression. Second, provide aid to species in need regardless of political benefit. Third, treat all species as equals, not as resources to exploit. You would replace the Council? Asked. No, Jake said. The Council can continue if it wants, but species will have a choice. Stay with the Council and its old ways or join the Alliance and build something new. We're not forcing anyone, we're offering an alternative. Several delegates began speaking at once, arguing over the proposal. But others were quiet, thinking. They had seen humanity's fleet. They had seen the defeated in an hour. They knew the balance of power had shifted. A delegate from a small mining species stood. The Council ignored our request for protection from raiders last year. If we join this alliance, would humanity defend us? If you're attacked, yes, Grant said. That's the whole point. The alliance protects its members. Then my species votes to join. Another delegate stood, then another. Within minutes, 15 species had requested to join the alliance. All of them were smaller civilizations that the Council had historically ignored. Watched his power crumbling. This is illegal. The Council has authority over all galactic matters. The Council has authority over species that recognize its authority, Jake corrected. These species are choosing to recognize a different authority. That's not illegal. That's freedom. Elder Myra stepped beside Jake. The formally request to join the Galactic Alliance as founding members. Accepted, Grant said. Welcome. More species joined. By the end of the session, 37 civilizations had requested Alliance membership. Most were small, but 3 were mid-sized powers with significant resources. The Council's old guard looked defeated. Their monopoly on galactic governance was broken. The Alliance will maintain a defensive fleet, Grant announced. Any attack on an Alliance member will be met with immediate response. We will not seek conquest or expansion, but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Jake looked at, the Council can continue its work. We're not stopping you, but you're not the only option anymore. Species have a choice now. The session ended in chaos. Some delegates were angry, others were excited. A few looked relieved that someone had finally challenged the Council's authority. Outside the chamber, Lisa joined Jake and Admiral Grant. That went better than expected. They'll try to fight back, Jake warned. The Council won't give up power easily. Let them try, Grant said. Every species in the galaxy saw what happened at Sanctuary 7. They saw the Council abandon civilians and they saw humanity save them. Actions speak louder than politics. On Sanctuary 7, the colony was already recovering. Human engineers had repaired the shields. Trade ships were arriving with supplies. Children played in the plaza while their parents rebuilt their homes. Kate's fighter squadron flew overhead, now a permanent garrison. Humanity would protect that was a promise they intended to keep. In the weeks that followed, more species joined the alliance. The council tried to pressure them to stay, but the threats rang hollow. Everyone knew who had the real military power now. Humanity had spent 50 years hiding their strength. They had been patient, careful, strategic. They had learned from their enemies and prepared for the day when they would need to act. That day had come. The SOS from Sanctuary 7 had awakened humanity's armada, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of the Galactic Council's unchallenged rule was over. The age of the Alliance had begun, and at its heart was a simple principle that an elder had taught a scared human child 50 years ago. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Help those who need help. Choose kindness over convenience. Humanity had learned that lesson well. Now they were teaching it to the galaxy. And the galaxy was listening. The age of humanity had begun. In the battle, the fleet sat powerless, captured without humanity losing a single life. The galaxy was watching. Sensors from a dozen species had detected the massive human fleet. The news was already spreading. Humanity wasn't weak. Humanity had never been weak. They had just been waiting for the right moment to show their strength. And that moment was now. The people humans care about. The countdown began. The fleet prepared to move. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, they held on, not knowing that help was coming. Not knowing that humanity remembered. Not knowing that 5,000 warships were about to drop out of quantum space above their world. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Council had taught humanity an important lesson all those years ago. Never show your true strength until you absolutely have to. Never let your enemies know what you're capable of until it's too late for them to prepare. Now they were dying. The one species that had shown humanity kindness was calling for help, and humanity was about to reveal exactly what they had been building in the shadows. Jake thought about mocking laughter, about the casual way the Council had abandoned He thought about every dismissive comment, every insulting gesture, every time the aliens had treated humans like insignificant children. In 72 hours, the galaxy was going to learn the truth. Humanity wasn't weak. They were just patient, and their patience had just run out.